Oh, great.
Welcome to the Bringing Intimacy Back show, where intimacy is real. If you desire to intimately connect with yourself, your significant other, children, family, friends, community, and higher power, this show is for you. We explore intimate topics, inspiring life stories, spirituality, and insightful tips on strengthening relationships. The show is hosted by Dr. April and her co-host, Coach K. Let's get this episode of the Bringing Intimacy Back show started. We share with you today the secret power to intimacy to create a life you love or love the life you create. Now, here's your host, Dr. April, and co-host, Coach K.
Welcome to the Bringing Intimacy Back show, where intimacy is real. How are you doing, Coach K?
I'm doing great on this fine Thursday. And how about yourself?
Oh, I'm doing fabulous. Yes. It's, December is such a month where you sometimes just reflect over your life, where you've come, where you've gone.
Yeah, definitely. Whether you want to or not, it makes you sit down and sit still and think.
Yes, it does, definitely. And so I'm excited about our topic today of becoming your CEO of yourself.
Yeah. Sometimes when I talk about being the CEO of my household, but yeah, you have to be the CEO of yourself. So that's a very good topic, especially going into this time of year.
Yes, and definitely, even in the sense of people like, well, what does being a CEO in intimacy have to do with it? But when you're the
Yes.
CEO of yourself, you understand the importance of your own body, your own relationships, your own health, your own finances.
Yes, taking charge.
That's what it basically is taking charge, which I'm excited to get into. But before we get into that, our charity of the month, because it is the month of December, is Toys for Tots. And Toys for Tots, it's such a great organization because sometimes as adults, we're busy paying bills, we're busy trying to pay bills and struggling, and we don't have sometimes the financial resources to get the things for our kids. And toys are so important.
Yes, they are. And I was many years ago when I had my girls, between Toys for Tots and the Angel Tree, that was the only way that they were able to have anything. So this is a very important charity. And, our location is an approved drop-off site. I will always support this. So I'm glad that this is our charity of the month.
Yeah, definitely. And what is your location so people can know in the sense of your office?
Oh, absolutely. We're at the space at Norchest, which is 7206 Hall Street Road here in Richmond, Virginia. And if you get lost and need to find me, you can always just give me a call, 804-967-4551 for drop off.
Right. And I do think toys are important. Toys impact everything. And so as I think about toys, and I think about when I was growing up, do you know what toys I used to love?
Which one?
Barbie dolls.
Oh, the make-believe beauty of Barbies.
And guess what? In me playing Barbie dolls and creating scenarios and relationships of scenarios with Ken and Barbie and all the different, it impact on what I do now.
Yeah, I can imagine you could do a lot with, Barbies and play and make believe, and it enhances creativity and it creates who we are today, honestly, that creativity, that uninhibited creativity.
Right. So I'm curious with you, what did you play with when you were little?
I play with G.I. Joe, little figurines, the little green figurines. Um, and stuff like, jacks and jump ropes. So we were outside a lot playing.
Okay. And those little GI, did they have storylines behind them?
Sometimes, but for the most part, it was just war play, I guess, because we, being that young, we didn't understand fully what war was outside of what was on TV, but it was just being able to make noises, have
Right.
them talk to each other.
Do you think anything that you played with as a child impact? Because our topic today is about CEO, being your CEO, take charge of your life.
The things that I think impacted me were the outside stuff, like the jump rope and the jacks. And it wasn't necessarily always toys, but
Okay.
just the outside. What can we use, like the merry-go-round, being
Right.
able to run and spin and jump on real quick. So it was those, and the bikes and the
Mm,
skates and things like that. So it created this adventurous, just wanting to seek more person that I am today.
right, right. Which in our topic today about being your CEO self is taking charge.
Yep.
Yes. And in
And
taking charge, it's that journey, just like you just talked about.
yeah, because we were creative beings. We would go down to the creek, ride our bikes to the creek where we're in. Of course, your parents told you don't go down there, but we went anyway.
Mhm.
Um, and we just explored and we took charge of our childhood essentially.
Right, definitely. Yeah. And so as we talk about this subject, and if you're out there listening on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, please chime in. And the sense of taking charge, many times people are scared to do that, of taking charge of their life. Do you know what I'm saying? It's, I'm waiting for the perfect this, I'm waiting for the perfect
Hmm.
that, or I don't have this and I don't have that. And they're stuck.
Yeah. And, just thinking about what we're talking about with taking charge, because there is a sense of accountability that comes with the person that's the CEO of anything has to be accountable for everything.
Right.
And so, like you were just saying, some people just don't want to take that step of, I think it's a fear almost of being successful.
Hmm.
If I take charge and I say no to someone who I should be saying no to, I'm going to be accountable for their feelings, when in actuality, it's the complete opposite.
Right.
You're accountable for your feelings and they're accountable for theirs.
Hmm. And I guess one thing we should say is when you take charge, you're saying that my feelings, my life, my thoughts are just as important as, yeah.
Yeah. And so necessary. Um, that CEO position, everyone wants to be the boss until they're the boss.
Hmm.
You think about it from adolescent to young adult, excuse me, adolescent to teenage to young adults. We fight as teenagers. I can't wait to be grown. I can't wait because I'm going to da 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 da. And then the reality of life hits where you're now the CEO. At first, your parents were the CEO of everything. They made sure that you went to things on time, that you were safe, that you were secure. Once that title is now placed on that 20-something-year-old, oh boy, they no longer want to be the boss because that comes with responsibility, accountability, and sometimes hurt feelings.
Hmm. Right. And I think sometimes in the beginning, we just see it as freedom and we forget
Hmm.
about the responsibility and the accountability and hurt feelings. And so we just say, wow, it's freedom. Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah. And
I was that.
yeah. And that's a normal thing to think of it as freedom, especially when you think about the stages of life. And when you're in that 18 to 21, sometimes even a little bit longer, when that frontal lobe hasn't
Mhm.
fully developed, all we see is freedom and no boundaries. So, of course, with no boundaries, we can hurt ourselves and hurt other people.
Oh, absolutely. 1000%. So being able to create the junior CEO and
Right.
our children is so vital to their well-being as they grow up.
Hmm.
Being able to allow them to have some decision making within their life. As a parent, you want to just do like we were told. I'm Generation X. So it was do as I say and you don't ask questions. Well, that worked to an extent because we did as they say, and then behind their backs, we just did everything else.
Right, exactly. Exactly. And with the newer generation, which is good, they sometimes challenge us and ask
Hmm.
questions.
Yeah. And I find myself, because I have the 11-year-old, um, and I have to find myself just taking a step back and staying open to that because the 23 and 21-year-old, I learned that process of listening more and allowing them to make some of those decisions that they may not have wanted to make. Like
Mhm.
something as simple as they were invited to a party. I used to always use my mom as my mom said I can't go.
Right.
Well, I put the onus on the children.
Hmm.
I'm going to leave this up to you. Do you feel like this is a safe place to be? Do you feel like you want to be around these? And I asked the right questions, but ultimately, I'm creating someone who can make decisions when I'm not available. So they can be the owner of their time, their space, and who shares it with them.
Right, definitely. Because as one of our listeners has said, that environment where you grow up help creates that healing, growing, that confidence of being and even understanding that you are the CEO of yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. But sometimes I think in working with, I have a variety of interns and people underneath me, and even as I counsel and talk with people, sometimes things that we do in our 20s when that frontal lobe hasn't been fully developed, we go crazy. And by time we late 20s, 30s, 40s, and beyond, we get stuck.
Hmm.
You know what I'm saying? With
Yeah.
regret. Or, oh my gosh, I can't believe I did XYZ. And that's a way of living that isn't good.
Right. Almost getting stuck behind guilt and shame and not being
Exactly.
able to move past it.
Right, right, right. And so, as our audience are listening, because we've both have done things in our 20s or whatever, yeah, how do we go about building confidence when you've made decisions previously that as you look back, you may not have said they were the best decisions?
I embrace every single crazy, idiotic decision that I made because I'm here to talk about it. And ideally, I've learned from whatever it is. There's a specific situation where I never forget this because I would not be sitting here in the position that I am. I probably wouldn't have the rest of my children. I was way young, like 20. I had just had my oldest, and I was going to move away with her dad. And he was like, no. And at the time, I'm fighting, like, oh, no, that's where I want to go. But years later, I actually was thankful that I was told no because I wasn't in a sound state of mind at all. I was young, I was silly, and just had a child. So I'm so thankful that even though the decision was almost made for me, I had to listen to myself and know not to just go and, do come. You can do some silly things when you feel rejected.
Right,
So
exactly.
I did have the presence of mind to just take that step back and be thankful that something inside of me put out an energy that protected me from doing something stupid.
Right, definitely. Yeah, it's like it says, taking that time to reflect,
Mm-hmm.
to figure out, hey, if this is something that, is good for me or not good for me.
And own it. If you made a stupid decision, own it.
Hmm.
That's it's difficult, but it's so simple at the same time. And talk about it
Right.
when you're ready, of course.
Right. And realize that all of us have made mistakes. Yeah. I mean, you're going to go through this world and you're going to make mistakes.
Hmm.
I mean, that's part of this life versus not. So what we're saying here is own it, be thankful, because in those mistakes, because I see myself many times over as a caterpillar
Hmm.
that has had to struggle. You know, you make mistakes and you struggle. And throughout that, you develop these wings and you fly and you go and you do, some good things. And then sometimes you're back in the cocoon again, but that's okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's just not to get stuck.
Realize and recognize the silly made. You want to start creating new boundaries around them.
Right. Definitely. And so as we were talking about people being there, building that CEO self, one of the things that really does help is practicing self-care. And in this season of holiday season where it's so stressful and people are just going and going and going and going and going, it's really important, if you're out there listening, to take the time and practice some self-care. And when I say about self-care, you're like, what is that? Okay. Self-care for a variety of people means different things. It could be a simple thing as getting your nails done, as we kind of maybe talked about last week, or just taking a bath or reading. But it's finding things where you feel that your body relaxes. Because in those relaxation moments, or even when you're taking self-care, it really does help your body and your mind to expand, to incorporate the journey that life has.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So and finding that thing that doesn't give you more stress.
Right. Right. One of the other things that with CEOs is they also have, when we think of formal CEOs, they have a growth mindset. Have you heard that
Yes.
terminology before? I'm assuming you have.
Yes. So
Yeah.
like
So
thinking forward.
yeah, thinking forward. Yeah. It's not getting stuck. It's bursting out of the dirt. It's always thinking positive about yourself, which I think really does help when you're a CEO of yourself.
It's almost necessary, honestly, because even though there is that phrase, fake it till you make it, that's a thing, yes, but there's only so far you can go faking it because someone's going to ask you a genuine question one day.
Right.
And so being able to think highly of yourself for where you are, and I think that piece is important, because we sometimes feel inadequate looking at where we're not yet instead of focusing on where we are right now versus where we were yesterday.
Hmm. So you make an interesting point because you're talking about fake it till you make it, which means, when someone says, are you doing great? And then you're like, yes, I'm doing great. I'm doing X, Y, Z. And if that's not how you're feeling, you know, that conflict.
Hmm.
Yes. What would you suggest in the sense of that conflict of, and I like how you say you have to think about where you are right now.
It's being able to honestly just take a pause. Um, it's hard to give ourselves kudos. It really is because a lot of times what we do, it comes natural to us. Even if we had to study a little bit, it just seems easy. And so when we accomplish this thing that comes easy to us, we look as if everyone probably is able to accomplish it. But in reality, we have to stop thinking of everyone when it comes to our successes. You have to start with the individual person, which is you. You know, congratulate yourself. Any of the clients that I have, when they say, "Oh, thank you because you XYZ," I always end with, "And make sure you go to the mirror and thank yourself."
Yeah, that is powerful. And I always remind clients, no matter what the world says about them, kind of just like what you're saying, don't ever say anything negative about yourself, because you cannot divorce you. You cannot, separate from you. So you always have to think positive. And so what we're saying is that instead of comparing yourself to XYZ, focus on you. And and be thankful.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Be thankful. And if you feel like it's just too easy, just you can challenge yourself. Just take what you're doing up a notch, and it's okay to come out, once you hit that plateau and you feel like, oh, this is too easy, challenge yourself. Have conversations with yourself. When you feel like you have to stay in fake it till you make it mode, ask yourself, what is it that I am so afraid of? Look at and look, do this while looking in the mirror, because it's so easy to, we have the Twitter finger, so they call it. You can do anything behind a computer.
Right.
It's just like with yourself. If you don't look at yourself enough, then it's easy to dismiss yourself.
Right.
But if you have mirror time on a regular basis, and I did this with myself when it comes to me trying to lose weight, I look at myself every single day because I'm holding myself accountable for the negative talk that I gave to myself, which during that, my weight only went up.
Exactly.
So I had to recognize that, change that around, talk to myself on an everyday basis, and just, hey, you can do it. This is, if it's something that you say you don't want, so what are you going to do to change it? Like, I hold myself accountable.
Right, exactly. And even in the sense of that goal of losing weight, and looking at yourself in the mirror, it's also being so positive about your body.
Yeah.
Because if you expect your body to lose pounds and you're saying, I don't like my butt, I don't like this, I don't like that, that fat is just honestly just going to stick. It's not going to work with you.
Right.
But if you go and you're like, my butt is pretty good, I like it, it will work with you.
Yes.
And that's where a show that also talks about intimacy. You have to feel sexy, intimate yourself.
My gracious. Yes. you have to feel it to the point where people like, oh, she thinks she cute, and you can turn around and say, and I am.
Yes, yeah. And if you don't have that rich, great attitude and say I am, which is great, which is where you need to be, that whole fake it till you make it part is I am working towards.
Yes.
Yeah, you can't say I am and you're like, oh, but you say I am working toward being sexy. I'm working toward, because I'm also cognitive behavior, and it says it spiritually, but what you put in your mind controls everything else. Your thoughts control everything else.
Yes, absolutely. That's major. And some of this is also kind of who you have in your environment. So being the CEO, if we think of a CEO of a company, they only want to hire the best, the people who are like-minded and the people who are going to help them succeed. And so as the CEO of yourself, you only want to be in the company of like-minded individuals that are on the same track as you when it comes to what success looks like. for you?
Right, right. And I'm hearing people, and I know we're in holiday season. And in holiday season, you have family, maybe you have these lost friends or people that mooch off you or whatever. So, kind of what you're saying. So, we may have people that are, I'm just going to say it, the weeds in our life. Yes. So, how do we go about picking out the weeds? Or not letting the weeds, really come in that inner circle
Mm-hmm.
where it like soaks up everything.
Mm. So naturally, when we think of weeds, we think of spraying something on the weeds to get rid of them,
Right.
right? When in reality, you could be harming the good plants around it. So if you start to walk and talk in a way that you want to be, that thinking forward, that acting forward, walk in where you would like to be versus where you were, those weeds will either fall off or fall in line. And that's the biggest thing, because a weed can never become a flower because it's always going to be a weed.
Right.
And so if it is not doing the things that you want in your area or in your surrounding, or not saying, hey, I want to be a better weed, then it will eventually die off because you're no longer fueling its desire to bring you back to where it is.
Hmm.
You're only filling yourself and fueling yourself with positivities to go forward and upwards in the direction that you want to be. And so they have the choice to stay where they are or follow and be better.
Right. And I love that analysis. And I was also thinking, as you says, moving forward. So if you have that growth mindset, you're moving forward.
Yes,
Yes.
absolutely.
Yes. And maybe the weeds are stuck
Yeah. And
and
it
you're
could be
moving
because they
forward.
need to see some kind of movement.
Right. 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 So I love that analysis about that. Moving forward, do not get stuck in those. Yes.
Mm.
Yeah. And either
I,
they fall off. Yeah.
yep. They absolutely do not feed the weeds. As they say, don't feed the animals, do not feed the weeds.
And what I realize is that sometimes if people have been, let's see, grown up around a lot of weeds, a lot of
Hmm.
chaos, and they're moving away from it, but it's scary because it's like, my gosh, there's no drama.
Right.
Yeah. And they're so used to the drama, the weeds, people pull them down, that sometimes they get stuck, the weeds catch up, or they end up going backwards.
It's easy because, like you said, it's that comfort zone. One thing that I do, I hear a lot of people say, well, I don't watch that reality TV because it's just drama and that's not who I am. Well, I watch reality TV and mindless shows because I don't have that in my life. And so I can watch it on TV because I don't want it in my actual reality.
Right.
But I am at a place in my mind where I am strong enough not to follow that route that I see on the TV, versus use it as a tool of, whew, definitely don't ever want to be that.
Yeah, one tool that I've used is affirmations.
Yes.
Yes, yes, because we've been talking about the mind here, and affirmations are saying, I am. And if you have affirmations, sometimes people, which I've prayed about it, but other people, you pray, you create, you find something online that says, I am, and you practice saying those things. Because technically, I think our world is a little bit negative anyway.
Mm-hmm.
So someone's going to say something, and if you don't know who you are, you're going to sway.
Yes.
So
Yes, indeed.
practice saying affirmations. And like I love how you said, looking in the mirror, say that to yourself.
And you can almost see when people morph into their environment.
Hmm.
And we may get upset with someone who does this, but the reality is, if you really look into their eyes as they're morphing, you'll probably see fear. You'll probably see so much fear, because if they're morphing unintentionally, then they're not even sure of what's happening and why.
Right. And I know you mentioned fear before, and sometimes people say, well, I'm not afraid. But I'm thinking, what if this happens, and what if this happened, and this negative thing here and that? Guys, that's fear.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And anxiety, in all honesty, is based out of fear.
And it's okay to
Yeah,
be a fearful person, because if you live life completely a million percent I mean, excuse me, completely invincible, like nothing could ever touch you, you could actually become a danger to yourself and other people.
right, right. You have to know your limitations, your boundaries. And when fear comes up, you have to have a way of discerning it.
Mm,
Yes. And discernment really means it's looking and see what is best for me. What's best for my spirit? What are my goals? What am I trying to go toward?
yeah. And being uncomfortable when it comes to going in that direction, because if it's new, it's going to feel uncomfortable,
Mhm.
but it's okay to roll with it, and find that support. What
Yes.
can support you in walking in this new discomfort that will soon become comfort?
Right, right. And I know we talked before about weeds, but also, like she mentioned, support is finding people that are like minded, whether
Mm,
it's through different spiritual opportunities or different meetups. There are a lot of different meetups of a variety of activities, or join groups of people in your profession,
mhm.
positive
I
groups.
I recently started, well, I finally launched. It's a group called the Lioness Den.
Okay.
And I did this because when I think of the Lioness Den, I think of a lioness and the power that she has to have, and the vulnerability that she has. That she does the hunting, she does the nurturing of the children, she takes care of the king, you know, but she doesn't do it alone, because there's normally other lionesses that are in that den. And so when I was thinking of this group, I'm like, oh my gracious, the nurturer, the hunter, the gatherer, the person that needs to have a shoulder to lean on, where the king may be off doing kingly things. So she needs to be around like-minded people, ladies. And so that's where I put that together, because we need the support of others, positive support, not a place where someone's just taking that information to possibly utilize it for negative, but someone who can take that information and show you where, hey, there is a positive in this. I know that you want to do it this way, but let's try that way. So I do think that that surrounding is absolutely important.
Yeah, I love how you put that as the lioness, and it's so important for us to have people we can lean on, and having like-minded people. And because also when you have others help you, and it's okay to ask for help, guys. That is one of the things that we've um, are trying to say, and I'm just putting it out there blankly. It's okay. It's important. Everybody needs help in this world. And when you
Mhm.
can be with other positive people and ask them for help, and you share things back and forth, it magnifies what you can do.
It absolutely does. Companionship, support, um, and if you are, because I know some clients who they are riddled with so much shame and guilt around whatever it is, that they don't want to speak on everything. When you are able to seek support from a professional, a lot of times we're able to pick up on what you're not saying,
Mm-hmm.
and present it in a way to remind you that you are human and you're not alone in this. And let's just see where we can turn this around for you.
Mm-hmm.
Because the fear of talking to a professional most times come from the ridicule that was received from talking to a relative or a friend.
Right. And we can look at things from the outside. Just recently, I had a couple, and she was really, first thing she said to me is, my husband, during the holiday season, we always argue. We always get so upset. She couldn't figure out why. Okay. And so when the husband comes on and we're talking, I realized that he has a hard time asking for help. When we went over the whole blow up about the whole Christmas tree, basically he had to ask one of his neighbors for help. And he basically said, I don't like to ask people for help.
Mm-hmm.
And in Christmas time, that's what it always is. He's a little bit of social anxiety. But until we actually figured out what it was, because she was taking it personally,
Mm-hmm.
but it had nothing to do with it. It's something from his childhood. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's what I was thinking. He probably wasn't allowed to ask for help or even show any signs of weakness
Right.
when
And
he
he
was
didn't
little.
even know why he was getting upset.
Mm.
But once we figure it out, then they come together as a team to figure out how are we going to address this. So it is important, like you said, to reach out for professional help.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And we're not, we see things often and we're not here to judge.
Mm-hmm.
We are here to support,
Right.
meet you where you are and be your support.
Right. And definitely kind of even going back to what we talked about in the beginning, that's what we do as professionals helping you guys out. But also it's something you have to do for yourself, not
Yes.
to judge and to be supportive, especially as you're becoming your CEO of self.
Oh, absolutely. It's a tough job being a CEO, but somebody's got to do it. In fact, everyone has to.
Exactly. Which, since you're in the holiday season, it's okay to even celebrate or even, I mean, it's been the last 2 years and even, this year, a tough year. So it's okay to even give yourself a little holiday gift, activity, self-care, because you deserve it. We all do.
Yes, we do. Absolutely.
Yes, yes. So this has been such a great topic.
It has.
Yes, yes. Do you have any final tips that you could think of that we could give our audience about being your CEO self?
Absolutely. I think what I would ask for anyone who's listening that may be trying to get to that place is sit down and write your CEO resume. And what that looks like is just right at the top, CEO. You create your job description. You create how it is that you will run, maintain, support you inside of your life. You create the support team that you will need. So create just a one-page resume of who you are, what you would like to achieve, what you have already achieved, and who will be the support system in your life to get you to those places. If someone's not on that resume, then it's time to look at, their role in this organization that we call life.
I love that. I love that. And to further what you were saying, if someone is not on your list and you said to look further, also realize that that person you may want to keep a bigger distance.
Yeah.
And this doesn't necessarily mean you move across states. but this means the distance in the sense of that emotional, intellectual piece that you bring to the table. And you understand what their role is in your life also.
Yes.
Yes. Yes. So this has been a great topic. We're going to take a short break, and then when we come back, we're going to tell you what's coming up on the Bringing Intimacy show. We'll be back in a moment.
Are you in a relationship with someone that you see often, but you feel so disconnected with them? Bringing Intimacy Back can help you bring the intimacy back to your relationship. BIB is dedicated to inspire, enlighten, and encourage intimate connections. Live shows, weekly guest speakers with over 29,000 downloads. We can help promote your products and services, grow your business and clientele with BIB. Want to become part of the BIB family? You can now sponsor with us.
Welcome back to the Bringing Intimacy show, where intimacy is real. And we've just been talking about the importance of being your CEO self and how that helps us. This show's about improving intimacy, improve intimacy with yourself and with others. So what is coming up?
Well, we have on next week, December the 15th, we have LGBTQ dating problems and mistakes with Wesley Toma. And then on December the 22nd and on December the 29th, we are going to wish you happy holidays and a grand new year. And then when we come back on January the 5th, we will have Intimacy Hack for Long Distance Relationships with Sean Hyman. But make sure you're always with us on Thursdays, because we're always going to have an amazing show with great tips, tricks, and tools and resources.
Yes, definitely. I look so forward to next week's show, and this has been a great show. If you like us, please follow us on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, and we will be back next week. This has been the Bringing Intimacy show, where intimacy is real. Thank you. See you guys next week. Bye.
Bye, everybody.
Thank you for listening to today's episode of Bringing Intimacy Back, where intimacy is real. You can also find us at bringingintimacyback.com, LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube. Dr. April Brown's 7-book series, Improving Intimacy, is now on Amazon. We'll see you next Thursday at 3:30 p.m. Don't forget to follow, share, and subscribe.